Discovered. Heartwarming tale of a rancher who saved a bleeding newborn from an auction. Her life. Jake Thompson wiped the sweat from his brow, the Texas sun beating down mercilessly. He stood in the local livestock auction yard, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of the season, a cacophony of clucking chickens and snorting pigs. But amidst the noise, a soul-piercing bleating broke through, turning heads and drawing his attention. There, huddled in the dirt, lay a newborn calf, barely breathing. Its coat was matted with blood, tiny legs trembling helplessly. The sight struck Jake like a thunderclap. Memories of his own struggles, the long hours and sleepless nights poured into ranching, flooded back. This helpless creature was a mirror of his own battle against a harsh existence, abandoned, but not lost. As the bids rose around him, he could feel the weight of those eyes on him, the voices murmuring disapproval. What would it cost to save this little life? Could he risk his meager finances when the drought was already tightening its grip on his family's legacy? But when he met the calf's wide, frightened eyes, he knew he had to act. His hand shot up. "I'll take her." The room fell silent, shocked gasps mingling with the approving nods of a few old friends. He named her Hope, and she quickly became his reason to fight. Feeding her, nurturing her, was a labor of love, the kind of work he always believed in. Day by day, she got stronger, her spirit mirroring Jake's determination. Yet, as his bond with Hope deepened, so too did the chasm between him and his estranged brother Tom, who had traded their father's ranch life for the lucrative world of big business. They had shared dreams once, but in the pursuit of wealth, Tom seemed to have lost sight of what mattered: family, loyalty, and the hard-earned sweat that shaped their legacy. Gradually, their clashing beliefs grew louder. Jake, trapped in a drought that threatened the ranch, poured himself into work, struggling to keep the land alive. Tom's calls were filled with promises of success and wealth, but they felt hollow to Jake. He longed for authenticity, not the empty riches that seemed to weigh his brother down. Each encounter turned into a bitter rematch, one man's heart versus another's ambition. As the county fair approached, excitement buzzed in Abilene. Hope's remarkable recovery became a beacon for the community, a representation of resilience amid despair. But then, disaster struck. A fierce storm descended, threatening to wash away all they labored for. The townsfolk rallied, united by their shared hardship. Jake found himself in the thick of it, surrounded by friendly faces and shared laughter, but the storm also stirred old grievances, intensifying divisions among families and friends. Just when things seemed on the brink of unity, Tom reached out. A message asking for a private meeting sent Jake's pulse racing. Confusion mixed with trepidation. Was this a chance to mend what was broken, or was it the final blow that would sever their already frayed ties? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the fair looming, Jake stood in the eye of a relentless emotional storm, grappling with his brother's message and the implications it carried. Hope nudged against his side, reminding him of love and loyalty, of everything he held dear. Would he embrace the hope of reconciliation, or would the winds of change tear them further apart? The fair was the heart of their community. It could be a place for healing or the battleground for a final showdown. With everything on the line, Jake felt a moment of clarity dawning, ready to face whatever came next. The sun began to dip low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the calm before the storm of the county fair. Jake's heart thudded in his chest as he stood at the edge of the fairgrounds. The laughter and chatter filled the air, but all he could think about was the message from Tom. Anxiety wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, weighing down his thoughts. Hope, ever intuitive, sensed his turmoil. She nudged his hip with her head, her big brown eyes filled with trust and affection. In that moment, Jake was reminded that her life was at stake, just as his family's legacy was. He took a deep breath, standing taller despite the weight on his shoulders. Reputation and fear swirled around him. Would he face ridicule for his stubbornness? Or was there a chance that Tom might actually want to talk things through? The idea seemed far-fetched, almost impossible, but a flicker of hope ignited within him at the thought of reconciliation. They had once been inseparable, brothers against the world. Somewhere beneath all the hurt and ambition lay the dreams of two boys. That evening, after the fair, Jake trudged home, the air cooler now and filled with a scent he cherished. The earth, moist from the recent rains, mingled with the delicate sweetness of blooming wildflowers. He glanced back toward the fairgrounds, the sounds of joy ringing out, and pulled his hands into fists. The laughter of children echoed like a bittersweet lullaby in his ears. On the porch, he found his old boots resting against the railing, a tangible connection to his father and the hard work that had built their ranch. With a deep breath, he slipped them on. Tonight, he would decide. Jake washed his face, forcing the warm water to soothe the knot in his stomach. He pored over the day's events, the smiles on the faces of neighbors, the conversations filled with laughter, and the way hope had become a symbol of resilience, a community rallying point. He knew he couldn't deny Tom any longer. He owed it to himself, to hope, and to the bonds of brotherhood forged through years of shared dreams. As the moon rose high, bathing the land in silver light, he drove to the edge of town where the fair's bright lights began to dim. He approached the familiar spot where he'd grown up with Tom, a tree-lined pathway with memories intertwined in every gnarled branch. When he stepped onto the gravel, he found Tom waiting for him. The years had changed him. His tailored suit stood in stark contrast to Jake's worn jeans and flannel shirt. The brotherly warmth that once radiated between them had been replaced by an icy tension, but the yearning for understanding pulsed just beneath the surface. "Jake," Tom said, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "I got your message," Jake replied, forcing himself to meet Tom's gaze. "Good," Tom responded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I know we have a lot to talk about. Things have gotten complicated between us." "Complicated," Jake echoed, the bitterness of their past leaving a sour taste in his mouth. "You want to talk about complicated? What happened to us, Tom?" The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved pain. Each second felt like a lifetime, but beneath it all, Jake could sense a yearning, a shared quest to reclaim what they once had. "What if tonight, under these stars, we find a way to understand each other?" Tom said, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his words. Jake's breath caught. Could this be the moment? A chance for healing, or simply another round of conflicting ideals? As emotions swirled, the night held its breath, waiting for the answer. With hope nudging against his leg, Jake felt the weight of the universe resting on his decision. Would he step into the unknown, opening his heart to a brother he once knew? Or would he retreat into the safety of his old wounds, leaving everything at risk? "Maybe we can try," Jake started, his voice finding strength he didn't know he had. Before he could finish, a distant rumble interrupted their conversation, a clear warning of another storm on the horizon. The struggle for family, identity, and legacy loomed larger still. What awaited them in the storm that was brewing, forging bonds or breaking them irrevocably, was still uncertain. As the rumble of thunder rolled closer, Jake felt a jolt of adrenaline surge through him. There was something surreal about this moment, his childhood home, the brother he had barely seen in years, and an approaching storm that mirrored the turmoil in their hearts. "A storm's coming in," Tom said, looking up at the darkening sky. "But we can't let that get in the way of this conversation." Jake hesitated. He could feel all their past arguments, the hurtful words, like shadows creeping in around them. "I never thought we'd end up here, Tom. It's been too long. We used to be able to talk about anything." Tom shifted on his feet, the weight of his tailored suit somehow heavier than the old flannel Jake wore. "Life happens, Jake. I got caught up in all this business stuff, and you shut me out." "Shut you out?" Jake repeated, disbelief flooding his voice. "You made your choice. You prioritized profits over family. I thought that was a decision you made on your own." As the first drops of rain began to pelt the ground, Jake saw Tom flinch, as if struck by each accusation. "Look, I know I messed up. I'm not proud of the way I handled things, but that's why I wanted to talk. I've missed you. I've missed us." Jake's heart raced. Did Tom really mean that? The distance between them felt like an echoing canyon, one filled with memories of laughter, shared dreams, and the close-knit bond that seemed to dissolve with every missed opportunity. "Do you even remember the summer we built that treehouse?" Jake asked, his voice softening with nostalgia. "How we swore it'd be our secret fort forever." Tom's eyes glistened. "Of course, I remember. We argued over who got to pick the color. You won with your ridiculous purple paint choice." "Yeah, well, you couldn't argue when it all became a masterpiece." A small smile broke on Jake's lips, even in the heaviness of the moment. "Do you think we could get back to that?" Tom's voice trembled with vulnerability. "I don't want to keep living like this." The rain began to fall harder, soaking both men, mixing with the dust from the ground they'd played on as kids. As they stood there, each drop of rain felt like a question, a chance for them to wash away the pain of the past. "What about hope?" Jake finally asked, pointing to the loyal dog, who was now pacing nervously. "You know our livelihood is tied to this ranch. I can't just abandon it all." Tom nodded, a flicker of determination crossing his face. "I get it. But don't you see? We can work together, bridge the gap. I want us to restore the ranch, not just our family ties but the land itself." Jake could hardly breathe, the possibilities swirling in his mind like the impending storm. "You really think we can do that? After everything? Why not?" Tom stepped closer, his voice steady now, pushing through the storm's roar. "This is our chance. Let us redefine what it means to be brothers. We don't have to be rivals. Not anymore." With the rain mixing with his unearthed emotions, Jake felt the dam within him burst. He had spent so long guarding his heart, but maybe it was time to embrace that lingering brotherly bond, even in the storm. "Okay. Let us try." Hope let out a small bark, almost as if she sensed the shift. Beneath the chaos of the weather, the two brothers stood on the brink of a new chapter, heartbeats quickening with the promise of restoration and connection. But just then, a bright flash of lightning illuminated the sky, revealing a figure silhouetted in the distance. The figure moved closer, their shape becoming clearer as the thunder boomed overhead. Who could it be, and how might this unplanned arrival change everything? Jake's heart sank as he realized the storm wasn't just about the weather. It was about family, forgiveness, and the potential for everything to be swept away. And there, amid the downpour, they would find out just how strong their bond could really be. The figure stepped closer, gradually emerging from the shadows. Jake squinted through the deluge, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. A familiar silhouette, one he hadn't seen in over a decade but could never forget. "Mom." The word slipped from his lips, barely audible over the roar of the storm. Both he and Tom stood frozen, disbelief written across their faces. She wore a long, dark coat, water cascading down like a waterfall, painting a scene that felt both surreal and overwhelmingly real. "What are you doing here?" Tom's tone was laced with surprise and concern. "I needed to see you both," she replied softly, each word seemingly weighed down by the rain splattering against her. "You too, your father. A lot has happened since I left." The tension thickened in the air, as if the storm itself were holding its breath. Jake caught a glimpse of sadness etched into her features, a reminder of the fractures that had formed in their family. Another flash of lightning lit up the sky, emphasizing the turmoil in her eyes. "I wanted to come back and try to make things right. I can't stay away any longer." Jake's heart raced. "You think you can just come back and fix everything? After all this time?" The hurt was palpable in his voice, a mix of anger and longing. Tom shifted nervously. "Mom, it's not that simple. You walked away from us." She took a step closer, the rain soaking through her coat, but the distance felt even greater than before. I know I did. I thought it was for the best, I really did. But I see now that I was wrong. I chose to build a life without you both, and that's my biggest regret. In what world is that okay? Jake snapped, pain spilling over. Do you think we didn't suffer because of your choice? I didn't realize how hard it would be, she said, lowering her gaze to the ground beneath her. I thought I was doing right by you. Just wanted to protect you from the mess I'd created in my life. Hope barked again and nudged Tom's leg as if it too sensed the tension. For several moments, silence hovered between them, heavy like the dark clouds blanketing the sky. The rain drummed down, each drop amplifying the gravity of what lay unspoken. We need you now, Mom, Jake whispered, the anger dissolving. Can you help us? We're trying to save the ranch, to save each other. Tom stepped forward, adrift in a sea of confusion and longing. It might be too late for us. But if you're serious about fixing things, we'll need your help. Her eyes widened with hope, and Jake felt a flicker of that warmth they had lost. I'll do anything. I mean it. Yet, they stood amid the storm, unresolved feelings clashing, aware that the journey ahead would be steep. Convictions woven tightly in layers of hurt and healing, choices made in the past hanging like storm clouds over their heads. Mom, before we go any further, Jake said, his voice steadier now, what are you really willing to sacrifice to mend this? We need to know you're in it for us, not just to ease your own conscience. She met his gaze, unflinching, but in that moment, thunder rumbled once more, almost as a warning. I'll give whatever it takes, she declared, the rain pouring down even harder, drowning them in emotion. But we need to face the past before we can move forward. And as the storm raged on, the brothers and their mother stood at the precipice of change, unity hanging in the balance. Would they be able to navigate through the lingering pain and begin to build the bridge they so desperately needed? The storm wasn't just raging in the sky above. Its intensity mirrored the tumult in their hearts, daring them to confront the truth. A crack of lightning split the sky, and just then, the ground trembled beneath their feet. What would it take to truly rebuild their family? Every heart beat with uncertainty as they each braced for what came next. The air around them felt electric. Rain continued to pound relentlessly, but in that moment, the world faded away. What mattered was the three of them, standing together. Jake glimpsed his mother's expression. It was a mix of remorse and determination. Okay, Mom, he said, swallowing the lump in his throat. What does that mean? Facing the past. It's messy. It's ugly. Her breath caught for a moment, and she looked down, as if the ground might provide some answers. It means I have to share everything. The reasons I left, the choices I made, and how things fell apart. Tom shifted nervously, scratching the back of his neck. And what about Dad? You know he's not exactly the forgiving type. Believe me, I know, she replied, her voice breaking. I've had years to think about how it all went wrong. Leaving was a mistake, but so was thinking I could just come back and it would be fine. Jake felt the heat of an internal fire, a need to protect his brother and himself from further pain. Fine then. Let us start there. What did happen? The question hung between them like a fragile thread, waiting to snap. She took a deep breath, and in the fleeting moment before she spoke, the storm seemed to quiet just slightly. I was young and scared. Your father, he was different back then. He drank too much, and I thought that running away would protect you both from that life. But I didn't even talk to him, didn't try to help him. I just ran. Tom frowned. You ran right into the arms of someone else. That's true, she admitted, a hint of shame creeping into her voice. But it was never about love. I was searching for a way out and thought maybe there was a better life. It was only after I left that I realized I didn't just lose your father. I lost both of you. Jake felt a tremor in his chest. The anger that had burned brightly was flickering now, replaced by a different kind of hurt, a deep-rooted ache for the lost years. And now you want us to believe you can fix this? I know it won't be easy, I know it's going to take time. Trust won't come overnight, she said, her voice trembling. But if you let me, I want to help heal this. I want to be a part of your lives again. Help how? We're on the edge of losing everything, Tom interjected, gesturing dramatically with his hands. The ranch, the animals. You're here now, but it doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't, she replied softly. But I want to help you save it. I'm willing to sacrifice my comfort, my pride, everything if it helps us find a way through together. To make amends. The silence that followed felt heavy, saturated with doubt and uncertainty. Jake felt a flood of emotions fighting for dominance. They all wanted the same thing, a family. But could they let go of the hurt and reach for it? The wind picked up, whipping around them as lightning cast ghostly figures with each pulse. You really mean it, don't you? Jake finally said, staring straight into her eyes. You really want to do this? She nodded slowly. I do. I'll prove it. Tom looked between them, his brow furrowed. Then we need a plan. One that works. We can't do this half-heartedly. Not anymore. Agreed. Jake felt the weight lift just a little, but the path ahead felt murky, shadowed by everything they'd endured. Then let us figure out what that looks like. As they began to sketch a tentative plan amid the chaos of the storm, Jake felt a rush of determination. He could feel the ground firming beneath him, as if the tempest outside had given birth to a sliver of hope. But lurking just beneath the surface was the painful reality that they would have to confront their father, to a confrontation that promised to be far more challenging than anything they had faced so far. Were they truly ready for everything that lay ahead? The next chapter of their fractured story was yet to unfold, and they would need every ounce of courage to face it. Together. The storm raged on, but inside the barn, there was a flicker of light breaking through the darkness. Jake, Tom, and their mother huddled together, mapping out a plan that felt both fragile and full of potential. Outside, the thunder roared, mirroring the turmoil in their hearts. Let us start with the ranch, Tom said, breaking the silence, his hands clenching into fists. We need to make sure we have everything lined up. It's what Dad cares about most. Jake nodded, feeling the responsibility sink deeper. Right. We can list the things that need fixing first: the fences, the water supply for the animals. We only have a month before the auction, so we have to act fast. His mother watched them, each decision setting her heart ablaze with both pride and regret. I can help with the planning. I know a few people who might lend a hand. I did love this place once, even if I strayed. Tom shot her a skeptical glance. Love is easy to talk about, it's the actions that matter. A heavy silence filled the space again, broken only by the sound of rain tapping against the barn roof. Jake looked at his mom, her eyes shimmered with a mix of hope and sorrow. We need to face Dad, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. We can't save the ranch without him knowing we're working on it. Her face paled slightly. You're right. She took a deep breath. But he's not going to take this well. I left him without a word, and the last thing I told him was that I was leaving for good. Tom scoffed. Yeah, not exactly a welcoming reunion. Maybe not, Jake replied, looking up at the darkness swirling outside. But we have to at least try. He won't listen to us if we don't include him. Can we really expect him to forgive? Tom's voice tightened, the thought clearly weighing heavy on him. No, Jake admitted, glancing down at the worn wooden floor. But he deserves to know we're making an effort. Their mother stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly. I realize I've made a mess of things, but I want to be in this together. I want to face him and share everything. It was a bold promise, one that sent shivers through Jake. Could they really put it out there, knowing how deeply they'd been hurt? But something in his mother's voice ignited a small flame of optimism. Let's put a date on the calendar, Jake suggested, surprising even himself. We can meet him here, where it all began. Make it about the ranch, not about us. With a reluctant nod, Tom added, and we'll need a plan to make sure he stays calm. Last time he blew up over the smallest things, and that was before everything fell apart. The thought of their father's anger made Jake's stomach twist. Memories flooded back, yelling matches, bottles hurled across the room, the palpable hostility. He felt a surge of apprehension, but also a flicker of something else. Hope. Could this finally be their moment to heal? Okay, we'll work on our part, Jake said, carving determination into his tone. We'll fix what we can, prepare ourselves, and stand together. We can handle it. Together. His mother nodded, tears forming in her eyes, while Tom's shoulders relaxed just a fraction, a small movement but meaningful nonetheless. As the rain began to ease outside and a sense of quiet settled around them, Jake felt a sense of camaraderie igniting between the three of them, the fragile thread of hope woven tighter. They were on the edge of something terrifying but necessary, but the reality of their father's reaction still loomed, heavy like the storm that had just begun to fade. Were they truly ready to face the man who had let them down, to confront all their fears for the sake of love? Jake took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. The next few weeks would be the toughest they'd ever faced. In the depths of uncertainty, one question echoed in his mind: could they really rebuild their family from this shattered past? Was a testament to resilience. The days crept by, heavy with anticipation and dread. The barn became their haven, a place of whispered plans and quiet determination. Each morning, the first light broke through the gray clouds, casting a warm glow on their makeshift map, scribbled on an old piece of cardboard. It served as a constant reminder of what was at stake. Jake tightened the last bolt on the fence post, his muscles aching from the labor. Tom stood a few feet away, adjusting a water trough, frustration etched on his face. It's not enough, Jake, he muttered, wiping his brow. This place is falling apart. Can't believe we're wasting our time if Dad doesn't even want to see us. Don't say that, Jake replied, sweat mingling with the dirt on his forehead. We have to believe he'll come around. Once we show him we care, he might see this ranch the way we do. Their mother, who had rejoined the ranching life after years away, stepped outside, clutching a box of tools. She glanced at her sons with a mixture of pride and worry. You boys are doing amazing work. I spoke with some old friends. They'll come by next week to help clear the pasture. Tom looked skeptical. Friends? You think they're just going to drop everything to help? She frowned, her hands gripping the edges of the box. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But every little bit counts. We owe it to your father and to ourselves. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the fields, they gathered to reflect on their day's work. Let us go over our plan again, Jake said, feeling the weight of their upcoming confrontation with their father pressing on him. They settled down on the hay bales, the familiar scent of the barn filling their lungs. Each of them took turns speaking their mind, laying out the list of repairs and renovations. The conversation shifted to a focus on their father. What if he won't listen? Tom asked, his voice laced with doubt. What if he shuts us out? He has always done that. Jake looked his brother in the eye, determination lighting a fire in his gut. Then we keep trying. We show him what we've done, how far we've come. We're not the kids he walked out on anymore. We're adults now, and we want him to really see us. Their mother interjected with a soft voice, and we need to remember, he was hurt, too. Maybe he just doesn't know how to reach out to us. The thought lingered in the air, a fragile possibility that made Jake's heart ache for the man he once adored. Could their father be so broken himself that he couldn't see the good in their efforts? As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Jake felt a mixture of hope and fear. They were gearing up for the largest leap of faith they'd ever taken. They had done work of the heart and of the land, but the scars remained, and so did the memories of what had been lost. That night, sleep eluded him. Questions floated through his mind like drifting leaves. How could they break years of silence? What if their father turned them away? Could love really stitch together the fraying fabric of their family? As dawn approached, illuminating the edges of his doubts, Jake sat up and stared out of the barn. The first flickers of sunrise promised a new day, but would it be the day they faced the man behind those walls of hurt? And so, he made a decision. They would gather courage, but they'd also prepare for disappointment. Yet even more pressing was the thought of when they would finally come face to face with their father. Would they be ready? More importantly, would he even recognize the love he once shared with them? The answer loomed ahead, impossibly close and agonizingly distant. One thing was certain, they were about to embark on a journey that could change everything. The morning sun spilled its light across the barn, illuminating the faces of Jake and Tom as they prepared for what felt like the ultimate test of their strength. The previous night's anxieties clung to them, but with the colors of dawn came renewed hope. This was the day they planned to confront their father. They weren't ready to back down. "Are you sure about this, Jake?" Tom asked, his hands trembling as he adjusted his favorite worn-out cap. "It's a long drive to the house, and what if we won't know unless we try," Jake cut in, his voice steady. He looked at Tom, willing him to understand. "We've worked too hard to give up now. We need to show him that we're not kids anymore." Their mother stood nearby, silently observing. She picked up a pair of old gardening gloves, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. "Boys, you've done so much already. Remember, it's about showing him love, not just anger or old wounds." With a determined nod, Jake grabbed the tools they'd borrowed and tucked them into a bucket. "Let us do this." As they drove the familiar winding dirt road, the silence felt thicker than the clouds looming overhead. The ranch house came into view, a silhouette from their childhood that now felt daunting. It was as if the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next moment. Jake parked the truck, but neither of them moved immediately. The weight of their father's absence loomed large, accompanied by the memories of laughter and warmth that had long since faded. "What if he's not home?" Tom whispered, glancing at their mother, who sat with her hands clasped tightly together on her lap. "He'll be here," she reassured him quietly, but Jake could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Just then, the door creaked open, and there stood their father. The years had changed him, just as they had changed everything around them. His face was weathered but familiar, framed by gray hair that highlighted the deep lines of worry etched on his forehead. "Dad," Jake started, feeling the lump rise in his throat. "What do you want?" Their father's voice was gruff, all rough edges, and it tore into Jake's heart. Tom shifted. "We've been working on the ranch. We wanted to show you what we've done." "Why now?" he asked, his gaze flicking to the ground. "Why would you even bother?" "Because this place matters to us." "You matter to us," Jake blurted, feeling the surge of emotion break free. "We still love you." The last word hung in the air like a fragile promise. Their father's expression shifted, a flicker of something like recognition or remorse crossed his face. But it was gone before Jake could cling to the moment. "Love? You think that's enough?" There was a bitterness in his tone, and already Jake felt the ground shifting beneath him. Tom stepped forward, his voice strong. "We're not here to argue, Dad. We're here because we want to make things right. Please, give us a chance to show you." For a moment, silence reigned. Jake clenched his fists, willing his heart to remain steadfast, longing for the connection they had lost. Their father took a deep breath, eyes scanning the ground, seemingly lost in thought. "I don't know if that's possible." The words stung like cold metal on bare skin. Jake felt his heart sink, but there was still a flicker of hope. "Nothing's impossible if we try," he said softly. "But we need you with us." Just then, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves overhead, and for a moment, the world felt still, as if waiting for their father's response. Would he step forward and embrace the possibility of healing, or would he turn back to the shadows? The moment hung thick, charged with unspoken words and trapped emotions, as they all stood on the precipice of a choice that could change everything. The silence stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. Jake's heart hammered in his chest, each beat echoing the fear of rejection. Tom stood beside him, fists clenched, jaw set firm. Their father shifted his weight, his eyes narrowing, wrestling with something deep inside. The wind whistled through the trees, a soft, sorrowful sound that amplified the tension in the air. Jake swallowed hard. "You don't have to say anything now, Dad. Just, think about it." Their father's gaze lifted, piercing through the silence. "You think you can just waltz back in here after all those years and make everything all right with a couple of tools and some fancy words?" "Not fancy words, just the truth," Jake replied, hoping to reach the man in front of him, the father he remembered, not this stranger. "We've grown up, Dad. We've learned. And we want to build something together again. Please." The old man took a step back, the weight of memories visibly pressing down on him. There was a flash of pain on his face that twisted Jake's gut. "You want a father, but I don't know how to be one anymore. I've messed up too much." Tom spoke up, his voice cracked but firm. "We don't want perfection. We just want a chance. We want to share our lives with you." Laughter, joy, and in the midst of it the memories of dinners and camping trips came rushing back to Jake, punctuated by the sounds of long-echoed stories by the fire. They were buried under years of disappointment and absence, but still there, waiting to be rekindled. Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph, the edges softened by time. "Look," he said, holding it out. "This is us, Dad. Remember? You took us this day." Their father squinted at the picture, his brows furrowing. The corners of his mouth twitched, revealing a brief glimpse of nostalgia held captive behind walls of regret. This was before everything fell apart. "Then let us fix it," Jake urged. "Let us start anew. The ranch isn't just a piece of land, it's our home, and we want you in it." Home. The word lingered in the air, almost wistful, and Jake dared to hope that maybe their father could see it through his eyes. After what felt like an eternity, their father took a deep breath. "I want to believe you. But I can't just forget." "Then let us not forget," Tom interjected earnestly. "Let us remember the bad and learn from it. Together." Their father glanced at the ground, lost in thought, while Jake and Tom exchanged a hopeful look. For better or worse, they were here, trying. But the fear nagged that their father might withdraw when the going got tough. "Okay," their father said at last, his voice still rough but less harsh. "Let us see what you've done. Show me this ranch you've been working on." Jake's heart soared, but as he stepped forward, he hesitated. There was so much they needed to share beyond the ranch, the laughter, the worries, and the bond that had been frayed. As they walked toward the barn, the sky began to darken, clouds rolling in like shadows. Jake glanced back at Tom, their unbroken bond shining through the tension. It was a new beginning, but storm clouds loomed, threatening everything they were building. Would they finally weather the storm together, or would it pull them apart all over again? The answer would come soon enough, as the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm that had brewed inside the Thompson family was fierce, yet amidst the chaos, there rested a quiet determination. Jake, Tom, and their mother stood side by side, bodies tense yet unified. Today was vital not only for the survival of the ranch but for the survival of what remained of their family. They had found courage, a flicker of hope that now seemed almost tangible. As they stepped into the barn, their father followed close behind, the air thick with unspoken words and memories. Jake turned to see his father's expression shifting, curiosity mixed with skepticism. "Show me what you've done," he commanded, but it didn't feel like a demand. It felt like a fragile invitation. The barn was everything they poured their souls into. The wooden beams glistened with fresh coats of paint, the sound of the livestock echoed the security of the earth, alive, breathing, resilient. Jake felt a wave of pride short-circuit the tension in his chest. "This is our home," he stated, the words swelling with purpose. "We've worked hard to save it. Just like we want to save us." As he gestured toward their efforts, the repaired fences, the mended troughs, his father's gaze softened. "All that work, for an old ranch?" he asked, his voice lower, laced with disbelief. "This ranch is more than just land," Tom interjected, stepping forward with newfound strength. "It's memories of laughter, of family, of love. The same love you once gave us." A silence enveloped them as their father's eyes scanned the barn, the weight of memories crashing in on him like ocean waves. He stepped closer to a dusty horseshoe hanging on the wall, and everything seemed suspended in time. "What do I even have to offer you now?" his father whispered, almost to himself, the jaded tone rich with regret. "You have us," Jake exclaimed, the urgency of his words reflecting the intensity of a heart ready to forgive. "We're not looking for perfection. We're here because we want to build a family again, to share life and work together. We need you. I need you." Their father caught Jake's gaze, and in that moment, something shifted, a tentative bridge built from the debris of years lost. The longing in his father's eyes hinted at a truth they had all shared, the profound need for connection, for healing, but as the first heavy drops of rain pattered against the barn roof, reality returned with a vengeance. "You have no idea what you're asking of me," he said, the old bitterness creeping back in. "We do," Tom replied, determination flowing through him. "We know it won't be easy. We know things between us may never be the same, but we have to try. For us, for Mom, and for the ranch." In that moment, Hope, who had been patiently watching, trotted forward and nuzzled against their father's leg. Something inside the hardened man broke, the sensitivity of the moment unearthing a hint of the warmth he had wrestled away. "You brought that calf back from the brink, didn't you?" he asked, voice softening, a ghost of a smile dancing on his lips. Jake nodded, feeling the bonds between them start to weave again. "She represents new beginnings, Dad. Just like we can." As rain gathered momentum, pouring down around them, their father stood taller. He crossed his arms, contemplation etched into his features, but no longer with the weight of frustration. A sliver of hope shimmered in the darkness. "All right," he said slowly. "Let us see if we can make this work. I'll give you a chance, but it starts with us being honest with each other." Relief flooded through Jake, igniting a warm glow deep within. "That's all we need," he smiled, heart swelling in gratitude and determination, finally seeing a pathway towards healing. As the rain continued to drum a symphony against the barn, the three of them began to talk. They bared wounds, told stories of what each had lost, but more importantly, what they longed to find. The weight of the past didn't disappear, but it began to fade into something lighter. As they shared laughter, tears, and past mistakes, an openness emerged, building fires of trust that they could reignite, together. The storm outside changed from chaos to a gentle rhythm, matching the newfound connection blossoming within. Tom gestured towards the mess of tools spread out in the barn. "Let us fix this ranch, not just the land, but everything," he said with a grin. "Yes," Jake declared, his heart racing with a renewed sense of joy. With the storm now restrained to a soothing drizzle, they stepped outside, feeling the fresh scent of earth and hope surround them. They were ready to embrace the challenges ahead, united not just as brothers, not just as mother and son, but as a family rediscovering love. In the face of uncertainty, they shared a resilient smile, brimming with love. Together, they ventured toward a new dawn, a new chapter for themselves, for Hope, and for the ranch. They had forged a path through the storm and were ready to weather whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart. Now is the time for you to join this journey. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and keep these heartwarming tales alive. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this beautiful ending below. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love and support the channel.